Okie doke. Well, this ought to be interesting. If anybody happens to be out there, this is, we made a lot of tweaks to how the setup looks. And, really I am here to see exactly how, if at all, we can improve. Hello, Azzy. Thank you for joining. So, the gameplay is just kind of there as a convenience, but very curious as to how output looks, sound looks, video, all that fun stuff. If anybody has any comments, throw them in the chat, and I will address them as I am able. But this is all about last night. Last night's stream was kind of a train wreck, so we made some pretty big overhauls to how things are looking. Thank you for that, Azzy. Much appreciated. So we took some big steps to try and overhaul how the output looks. Hopefully it made a difference, but we shall see. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it was definitely raining yesterday here too, which certainly did not help. But definitely I know that I also have some, or hopefully had some hardware issues, and hopefully it's making a difference today. DBZ, thank you for that. But I want everyone to be careful, because it does seem that we have Dr. W.D. Gaster in the chat as well. Oh, Hasta la Muerte. I don't know if y'all have ever... I posted this in a video, but I've tried to get it in a place that's visible. One of my friends from work gave me this little chat here. This little 3D printed, this little text box. So I try to have it on display in a place that's obvious, but just so y'all know that it's back there. I do love that. I do love that little bit of text. So, and Kenneth, I see you over there in Twitch chat. I do not take offense when people call me Asgore at all, so please keep it coming. Crisp Memer, good to see you, my friend. How you been? Dr. Gaster, Dr. Gaster, I've never played Roblox, but throw it out there anyway. I'm certainly curious, and I bet there's someone else in the chat that would be as well. Oh, hey, Dwarf. Good to know things are looking good. I I wear the Asgore mantle well, as best as I can, you know. If I figured early on. Oh, okay, Crisp, I was wondering that. A little bit. But no, you told me you were in your 30s, I think, before. So I kind of putting two and two together there. Kenneth, FNAF SB. I recognize FNAF, but not so much. I'm not sure what the SB stands for. What do I want to see in Chapter 5? I am really hoping for... I mean, I think it's a given that Asgore is going to be in it. I kind of think it's pretty confidently stepping in that direction. I would love to see a really strong, like, step toward the conclusion of the Shadow Crystal arc. I think that's what I'm most hoping for. Friend... The like Image Friend Shadow Crystal debacle is like my favorite like lingering thread in Deltarune, and I really hope we get some solid information in Chapter 5. So Uh, Crisp, I've been really, really good. Work has been very, very busy, but things are kind of letting up. Um, June and July are going to be relatively light months for me, so I'm hoping to, get back in the swing of making content. I'm hoping that Deltarune comes out before September, because mid-September I am going to work's going to pick back up again, and I'm not going to have nearly as much time to savor it as I might like. But at the end of the day, we gotta let the man cook. We gotta let the man cook. So I'm not gonna shake the tree too hard. But I'm crossing my fingers. We at least get like a month of Deltarune summer. So Dr. Gaster, I talked about that on the previous stream. Like, what would the Roaring Knight revealed as the annoying dog would be? And I do have a theory. Um, I do have a theory that the annoying dog thing might be like, what if the Roaring Knight, and this is, I don't have anything to back this up other than like sort of the lack of concrete information about the knight, but what if the knight was just a big red herring? Like, what if the knight was a big red herring that it was just like some random shadow creature that happened to have like enough of a personality to make us think that it was a townie? I don't think that's very likely, but that would be like such a rug pull because, I think the Mike fight in chapter 4 definitely cued us in that Toby is aware of the fan theory community. And where was I going with that? So I think he knows that he's setting up this kind of big mystery with the Roaring Knight, and it would just be a really nice, or not nice. It would be a really interesting rug pull to have the Roaring Knight just be a great big red herring. So, but no proof. I have no proof to back that up. Dude, Andrew Cunningham makes some great videos. I will have to check that out. And yes, Dr. Gaster, I'd love to hear more about your thoughts about Reaper Bird being the knight. I'm going to try it. Give me 1 second to click some buttons in OBS, friends. I promise I'm still watching. Looking back at Twitch, Kenneth, I actually do think that probably is the most likely theory. I really like the thought that the knight is like the result of Dessa's body being separated from Dessa's mind. I just think kind of looking mechanically that makes the most sense to me. And yeah, I think you're really onto something. And Friend being sort of like the possessing force would be really interesting. So that's right, Crisp. You did mention that. I forgot about that. Yeah, the knight being an amalgam would definitely make sense. A part Des. So to answer your question, I know somebody asked what game this is. This game is called Saros. It's a third-person roguelike shooter from Housemarque, the people who made Returnal. People seem to be interested in chatting, so I might be focusing on that, but we'll see. I do want to do a little bit of stress testing today, so. And yes, Dr. Gaster, I absolutely did. That was one of the first things I noticed in Chapter 3 when they had the big friend reveal. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's one of the amalgamates from Undertale. That gives us maybe a really strong indication of where things might be going. And Dwarf, to answer your question, so I did what might be the most obvious thing in the history of mankind, and moved my wireless router closer to my computer so I could do a hard connection to the internet, which I probably should have done at the outset. So within an instant, my upload speed went from 8 MB to 22. So endogeny. That's that. I was trying to think of their specific name, but yes, you're absolutely right. Imagine the knight being the worst possible character in the lore. When we had a similar conversation a couple weeks ago, somebody speculated about Newbert being the knight, which would be hilarious. Newbert is the Titan. That's crazy. Yeah, YouTube definitely does have some thoughts. I enjoy watching Spooky Dude's videos. You know, friend inside me holds a very special place in my heart. So yeah, definitely, but definitely some curveballs. Yeah, Gaster, explain anything you like, my friend. You don't got to ask me for permission. Cammy G is a name I've been seeing come up a lot more lately. Didn't they do the like the sewer theory, or am I thinking of somebody else? Is chapter 5 about, you know, Toby made me sign an NDA, so I can't talk about that, whether or not I have chapter 5 in here right now. As soon as I got done doing the motion capture, you know, I had to be sworn to secrecy for what I've seen. I actually hate yeah, British Rules Card, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, say what you just dump whatever comments you have in the live. I'm definitely looking for feedback on how the picture looks too. So, I think we got the audio figured out. Is the good news. But yeah, Crisp, I like low key kind of hate how much sense the sewer theory makes. Like I went in being like, oh, grown this, but no, it's like. I don't know that it's going to be true, but it's certainly well thought out. Like, I have a hard time saying, oh, that's... I have a hard time saying, oh, absolutely not. There's no way this can be true. Toilet rune. Dwarf, I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you for letting me know. I very much thought this would make a difference. So, I think... So, the year anniversary of the Chapter 3 and 4 release is coming up soon. I think we're going to get a newsletter then. Or somewhere around then. You know, because usually I hear a lot of people saying, too, that anytime there's, like, a new music release, that, that usually means a newsletter's on the horizon, and we just got those, guitar compilations. So, or yeah, that's what I meant, guitar compilations. So, I think the ground is fertile for at least a Deltarune newsletter, and likely, hopefully, fingers crossed, a release date. I think, yeah, that's... I am an optimist. You can call me Optimist Prime. But, yeah, I would not be surprised if we got a release date soon. John Exotic, good to see you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, we really don't know that much about Des, but I think that could be by design. I heard a really interesting theory that Des is another human. I kind of like that, just again for the plot twist of it all, but again, we just don't have enough information to really definitively say one way or the other. Temmie is the knight. I would love to hear the Temmie Village theme from Undertale remixed with like Black Knife. That would be so, like, it would either be really cool or it would be the stupidest thing ever. There would be no in between. The bop doo da 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 bop. Crisp, I am full of useless talents. I do feel like, and again, this is more of a vibes-based assessment than anything. I do feel like the knight can really only be somebody who's relatively well established in the story, or just a complete nothing burger. I don't think it's going to be ooh, that's good. I don't see it as being a character that is only good I don't think it could be like a lukewarm character that we've only kind of seen. I just think narratively that wouldn't be very satisfying, and I think Toby is kind of aware enough of how to craft a story that he's not going to make a choice like that. If it was a complete nothing burger and the knight was an absolute red herring, that would also be really, really satisfying narratively, because at least it's a really bold choice, you know? But I feel like having it be somebody like a tertiary character would be, I don't know. I don't see it, looking at it from a story structure perspective. Nah. You know, that's funny, Dwarf. I was thinking about memorizing Albuquerque again, just for fun. My memory for it has gotten a little rusty over the years, but you know, we can get it back. Crisp, I actually do like the idea of Rudy being the knight. I think that would be very satisfying, because Rudy is well established enough as a character to be like, ooh, whoops. I do think that would be a really satisfying kind of twist. Because the knight definitely has a lot of deer-like qualities. People are likely to underestimate Rudy being the knight because he's in the hospital. So, I think it's a possibility. And what are the knight's pronouns? I think it's safest to say they, them. I think it would also be acceptable at this point in the game. Oh, that's good. And what I would say to the idea that Rudy being in the hospital precludes him from being the knight is, if the knight is implicated in is involved in a seemingly town-wide conspiracy that Carol is also involved in, I don't think it would be very difficult to get Rudy out of the hospital. Like, surreptitiously, that is to say. Give me just a minute, Chad. I gotta deal with this clown real quick. He thinks he can come into my house, eat my food, throw my projectiles. I'm gonna give him another thing coming. Ah, beans. There we go. Why does every boss in Deltarune have pink and yellow in their design or attacks? I actually really like that because it opens up a lot of different theories. There's some people who think the colors represent a certain, like, what's the word? Like virtue or like abstract concept, like strength or something like that. I don't remember exactly what those relationships were, but I do kind of like that idea. It's definitely a possibility. One thing that I kind of think could be true, especially because there's a soft implication, that Asgore may, I want to capitalize, underscore, underline the word may in that sentence, may be directly involved in the Shadow Crystal plot. Dr. Gaster, that's where I'm going with this. Because Asgore's color palette is pink and gold, right? And it's implied that he has a, quote, dark shard, which, yes, I am aware is possibly an allusion to, is a direct allusion to the knight's weapon. But, you know, dark shard could also be shadow crystal. The caveat to that is the shadow crystals, I believe, are expressed as glass in the light world, rather than like a dark crystal. But I do think there's some connection between Asgore and Friend. I think Asgore has a dark fountain hidden somewhere inside of Flower King. I think that's going to be the focal point of Chapter 5, or at the very least a chapter soon to come. And I think he's been using aforementioned, I think there's a possibility, at least, he's been using aforementioned hidden dark fountain to commune with Friend and to go help set up the Shadow Crystal plotline and all this, that, and the other. I'm going to have to check that video out, Chris. Like, Andrew Cunningham makes some banger videos. Rejeveled Asgore is lonely. Yeah, okay. That's a good, like, stab in the in that direction, I think. That makes sense. Yeah, ERAM in general is kind of the most difficult thing to classify. There does seem to be, there's at least a very, like, strong implied connection between ERAM and Friend from the Friend sprites we see during the ERAM fight, but yeah, ERAM is kind of inscrutable. But Gaster, to kind of feed into that, I think Gerson could be like... Because there's a connection between Gerson and Asgore already in the light world. Because, like, there's an implication. I think somebody did a specific... I think it might have been Cammy G, but I don't remember. Did a theory saying, like, there might have been an original trio of Lightners, like an original fun gang comprised of Asgore, Rudy, and Gerson. So there's already kind of a connection there. I might have to lock in for a minute while I deal with this clown, but I'll be in and out of the chat, friends. I should have picked up a spray and pray weapon, but I didn't. Crisp, I hope that's not true, and I'm going to... I think it could be true, to be fair, but I hope it's not, and I'll tell you why. I think the conflict between Chris and the Soul is the most interesting thing about Deltarune. I like the whole conversation about player agency versus character agency is really, really interesting to me. And I think the idea of Chris being complicit with the Soul's desires, especially like looking at things like the snow or the weird route or the Snowgrave route or whatever the nomenclature is now. I don't know. I could see that being true, but I hope it isn't. I think that would feel personally unsatisfying to me. Alright. Mario and Rabbids Kingdom battle. Yeah, I know. You don't remember the part where you fought the giant tree monster with a crossbow? Come on. No, the game is called Saros. Came out for PS5 a couple of weeks ago. I have been playing the absolute crap out of this game. But all right, I gotta get caught up. People have been sending theories my way. Oh, that's so funny, Chris. But yeah, you know, I could, when you put it that way, I could see that. Like, words are so hard. Because Chris has had to deal with a lot. And I mean, it would be not that hard to believe that, you know, somebody, especially during those volatile teenage years, you know, somebody going to extreme lengths to try and, you know, stop things from changing. So, Dr. Gaster, what I am hearing, and that is sort of implication that maybe ERAM is in fact the real like rug or the real string puller behind the Shadow Crystal plotline, and what we're seeing as Image Friend is just kind of a minion of his made real, for want of a better expression. That could certainly be true. Kenneth, I want to address your question. How is the Shadow Crystal going to help Asgore fix his family? I don't think we know enough to really speculate on that exactly. But I think a more interesting question is, what implications does the fact that Asgore is willing to use these otherworldly, outright dangerous methods of to help get his family back? How far is Asgore going to be willing to go to fix his family? I think that is, that's a very interesting question. And I mean, that could look a little bit different, I think, depending on, what the Dark Shard actually is, what Asgore's role actually is, and what the plan actually is. But, are we going to... I made a video about this, but are we going to have an Asgore fight? What would that look like? In what circumstance would Asgore be willing to fight Chris? How far would that fight go? I think an Asgore fight in Deltarune would be a real turning point for the story. Yeah, I kind of think so too, Crisp. I think an Asgore fight in Deltarune would have some kind of wrinkle to it, or some twist, but outright, just out of context oh my gosh, out of context combat against Asgore just doesn't make much narrative sense to me. I don't see Asgore as being the knight. I think... Is it possible? Sure. I don't think it's that likely. Oh, that's good. Versus Toyota. Asgore is not hip with the kids. I'm working real hard to change that. But no, I low-key hope Asgore isn't the knight. I feel like there are more interesting ways that could go. Again, it's kind of more of a, is this narratively satisfying kind of question, and I don't see it. Well, Deltarune Asgore isn't. What are you talking about? A man who says a cringy thing like ex-husband when talking to your ex-wife. What are you talking about? That's totally hip and with it. Battle text boxes. This is kind of a... How do I want to ask this in a way that will make sense? Like, the text box... when you say battle text boxes, I don't think you're wrong, but I think it might be through the, like, general text boxes that are talking directly to the player. Like, for example, when Chris plays the piano in the puzzle in Chapter 4, and the text says you take a deep breath, and then you relax your hands or whatever it specifically says. I think that could be, you know, a version of Gastard or whoever the string puller in Deltarune is talking to the player. So Asgore, Asgore is hip with his kids. I think it might be more accurate to say that Asgore loves his kids and would do anything for his kids. But, like, to say that, and I say this as somebody who loves the character, but to say that, like, Asgore from Deltarune has, like, aura, I just don't see it. But that said, here's a wrinkle. Here's a devil's advocate moment. What if the Black Shard does like a Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing, where using it brings out like qualities you wish you had about yourself? Because, you know, the big theme of the Dark Worlds in general is a big theme of the Dark World themes in general is escapism, right? Like living in an idealized version of the world, or like a version of the world that you want to see, you know what I mean? But so I imagine a Dark Shard like bringing out the worst qualities about yourself, or like an opportunity to bring out your worst qualities and make them real, or something like that. Again, I don't have anything to back that up, but it's a fun thing to think about. You know, I don't think I ever would have made that connection without all of you, that I am, you know, the real life personification of Asgore, so I totally thank you all for all of that. All I need to do is get myself a red pitchfork and start talking in the full time, and we are set to go. I don't think I could ever be a chief of police, but I don't mind gardening. I certainly don't mind gardening. I have a vegetable garden, actually. I'm not super big on growing flowers, but I do have a vegetable garden I've got growing. I was just out there checking it this morning. I got some garlic coming in, some tomatoes. We've had a lot of rain here, and the tomatoes don't seem to like the combination of rain and slightly lower temperatures we've been having, but I think that things will change once we get into the summertime. I mentioned earlier that I have a lot of useless skills, Crisp, and one of them is that I am pretty good at copying sounds. And, well, that just happens to be one of them. Not that I think I could ever do I'll never do as convincing a Sans cosplay as I do an Asgore, but I am getting better at making Sans sounds. So Asgore is pretty easy because it's just a with a tongue. But Sans is very like high pitched. And hold on, I'm gonna pause again because I can focus on this. It's very up here. So we just need to kind of figure out a way to get to articulate that. And the best way I found to do it is to kind of pinch the upper lip together. I do know that the Patrick Star dialogue is the source of Sans dialogue, but boots on the ground, actually executing it, I don't find trying to do a Patrick Star impression to be that helpful, because Patrick Star is very much up here, and I really like what sells. You have to use because the Undertale sounds happen so fast, you have to have the tongue involved somehow. So I do Sans kind of like, and with my upper lip kind of pursed out, and then stick my tongue up in between it. It's not perfect, but I'm getting better. Hey, I'll see what I could do. Like I would be totally down to do that. Low key, I hope Undertale does not get a real like a live action movie. Because I mean, first of all, Jack Black would take it over me easily. Like, let's be real. Like the freaking Bowser from Mario, Kung Fu Panda. Like they would look at Jack Black before me any day of the week. But I would certainly try to throw my hat in the ring. And Crisp, yes, 100%. One of the things I love the most about Undertale and Deltarune is it's a game, it's a story you couldn't tell anyway outside of, it's a game, oh my goodness, it's a story you can really only tell inside of a video game. It does not, it wouldn't work nearly as well in any other medium. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, but as someone who's worked in casting before, I've never worked in anything like a big, heavy grade movie or anything like that. But I lost my train of thought. But I do know that star power is something that people take into consideration. But that's why it should be fan made. Yeah, Dwarf. Honestly, the best Undertale projects are fan made for sure. So you definitely have a bit of logic in that, I would say. I want to be clear about that. I've never worked in Hollywood or anything like that. I work in musical theater. I'm a music director for a living. So I listen to auditions all the time. I've sat at casting tables for musicals a few times. So, but nothing like big profile. I don't want to oversell myself. But I do know. But that said, I do know the kind of decisions that go into into a casting table, and I imagine it just kind of gets more concentrated the higher you go. So, I'm casted for a movie either because of how much Jack Black makes. Amish murder mysteries. For sure. This is going to be a deep niche pool for the TikTok audience, but people in Twitch will probably know what I'm talking about. I gotta get Mikey Rogers on board on this. So Jack Black would likely be casted for a movie of either because of how much Jack Black makes. Yeah. Like, let's be real. Jack Black, Chris Pratt, Tom Holland. At least one of them would find a seat at the table. Oh, yeah, of course. Toby would either be Sans, I bet, or, like, the annoying dog would have a voice somehow. Or he would do, like, barking sound effects for the annoying dog. And I say that, and to be clear, I do say all that stuff as someone who loves Jack Black. I am a Jack Black fan till the day I die. Toby would voice Spamton. I would actually really like to see that. Though I will say, I don't know how to say his name. I don't know if it's a C, the CH is hard or soft, but Alex Rochon or Rockon or whatever, the guy who voices Kane in Digital Circus, that guy's Spamton fan dub is amazing. It's fantastic. Like, the canon Spamton voice as far as I'm concerned. You know who I actually like as a Tenna voice actor? Weird Al Yankovic. I would love to see what Weird Al would do with Tenna, because like Weird Al is actually a pretty good voice actor. I don't know that... I mean, you're probably right about Temmie. I don't actually know what Temmie's voice sounds like. But it would make the most sense for her to voice, you know, the character Temmie, I suppose. Yeah, Dwarf, I did see that. We were talking about that at work the other day. The Weird Al Broadway musical. That's gonna be fantastic, I bet. That actually might make me make the trek out to New York. They got the voice director for G-Man for Gaster. That would be perfect. Let me see if I could do a good G-Man. This next experiment will be very, very interesting. Or something like that. That would be so good, man. That would be awesome. Crisp, I have not. But you're absolutely right. I always forget about the feature presentation video. But yeah, you're right. Technically, Toby is in fact the canon voice of Tenna. The craziest cast for an Undertale or Delta movie. So like craziest cast, I wonder what specifically that would look like. That could go a lot of different directions. Oh, maybe I have Crisp. Maybe I have seen that. Then that sounds familiar. But nevertheless, once I get out of here, I'll take a second look at that. Where am I going? Over here. Would an Undertale movie work better as animated or live action? I would think animated for sure. I just would... I feel like you have to have that degree of unreality to make... I mean, I agree with what Crisp says, ultimately. An official Undertale movie would probably just not be a good idea. I just don't think it's meant to be adapted to that medium. At least, yeah, no, I just don't think you could adapt that story well to that medium. It's so... mechanical gameplay is so important to the story that's trying to be told. So I think if you had to do it, it would be best to do it animated. Hollywood would try to make it live action. I suppose that's possible, you know, but I would think, you know, I don't know exactly how the sausage gets made, but I feel like any adaptation has to lean into that unreality a little bit. And if you wanted to make it live action, then you'd have to spend a ton of money on effects. And I have to believe that at a certain point, it makes... If you're going to be spending a lot of money anyway, you might as well spend a lot of money to make it as good as you can, rather than, you know, try and cut corners. But, like I said, I don't really understand how the sausage gets made. And in a perfect world, we won't need to have this conversation because it won't be a thing. And Deltarune will just... Undertale and Deltarune will just exist as fan projects and as the games. Oh, Crisp, that would be really cool, actually. If there was a way we could take Crisp's idea of having the player be, like, in shadow, with Monkey Man's idea of, like, choose your own adventure sort of thing, like Bandersnatch, I do think that would be maybe as close as you can get to an ideal, like, big-budget adaptation. Like, something that you were, like, because, like, Crisp's idea of, like, having a live-action shadow being in the background, I really like the idea that there's this looming presence. Goofball, what is up? We're chatting, we're yapping about, we're chatting about what an Undertale movie might look like. And, I'm playing Saros, but not really focusing too much on that. But we're here having a good time. I'm decked out in my Memorial Day gear over here in the U.S. Pacifist route, pacifist route for sure. I tell people when I'm trying to sell them on Undertale, in fact, that the true pacifist route, I don't use that language specifically because I want them to find out the pacifist no mercy mechanics on their own. But I tell people that it's as close to the experience of a Disney movie as you could get playing a video game. I mean, if you think about it, there's already a good bit of horror elements in Undertale and Deltarune. Like, especially, like the Chapter 3, where I'll say talking about the true nature of the Dark Worlds. Like, I think that's, like, picking at some light horror elements. And I kind of to piggyback off of that, since you Goofball, since you brought up Omega Flowey. Omega Flowey in a movie would go absolutely nuts. It would either be the coolest thing we've ever seen, or it would be totally freaking mid. How do I keep getting hit? When do I think Chapter 5 is coming out? I'm hoping late July, early August. But you know, the real answer is we can there's no way to be sure. But I'm hoping sometime around late July, early August. I am certain it's going to come out this year. I don't see any reason that it wouldn't. Excuse me, but yeah, as for specifics, I'm kind of in the dark as everybody else. Oh, there's the boss. Plot twist, Toby releases it on Christmas. I feel like if he's going to do that... Yes, Bullet Hell GLaDOS is defeated. That's very apt for that boss, for sure. But going back to Toby releasing Chapter 5 on Christmas, I do think it's possible we would get a Christmas release for one of the chapters. I don't think it'll be Chapter 5. I think it'll be... I suspect if he's going to do that, it would be for a chapter maybe 7 or whatever the final chapter ends up being. But yeah, I am crossing my fingers for mid-August, because that'll give me my work schedule is going to get crazy busy starting mid-September. So I would love to have a good long while to sit with Chapter 5, you know, make some content, really dig into what's going on. So oh yeah. Thinking about Snowgrave vis-a-vis a Christmas release in Chapter 5. That would be interesting. Get myself caught up here. So, Monkey Man, I want to go back to your point about the Lord of the Hammer comparison and Chapter 7 being unfinished. I think that would be interesting. I think if that did happen, then the arc of that chapter would likely be the Fun Gang like finishing the story, if that makes sense. Because especially during the Gerson fight, he talked about Susie holding the pen of hope and like having the ability to write her own story and all this, that, and the other. So I suspect that if it went in that direction, that's kind of the form it would take. Yes, exactly, Monkey Man. And as to the latest thought, Gaster, I will offer this. I hope that there isn't an explicit emphasis on explicit link between Undertale and Deltarune. I kind of like the idea that they're really separate kind of standalone stories. I compare Undertale and Deltarune to Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I think it would be great if we got a couple little nods, like, you know, the idea that Sans might be from Deltarune. If we got like a little bit of breadcrumb of information that kind of made that more of a stronger possibility. But outside of that, I really like that Undertale and Deltarune are kind of standing on their own separate pairs of legs. What if there's going to be another Snowgrave? Well, I mean, the Weird Route has not reached its completion point yet, so, I mean, there's definitely going to be some more shenanigans. And I think if we're to believe the information we got from, I think, what's it called? Spamton Sweepstakes? I'm pretty sure that's where he dropped the picture of the numbers of varying sizes. There's going to be a degree of Weird Route material in Chapter 5, so I don't think we've seen the last of Snowgrave one way or the other. Gaster, I think you should do whatever you please, my friend. I always say if you have an idea and a conviction to make something, that you should just do it. You never know how the world's going to respond to it, and I mean that in a positive way. Like, if you have the capacity, the desire to make something, I think you absolutely should. I do want to talk about Monkey Man. This plays into that is wholly up to you, Gaster. If you like, be my guest. I won't mind that whatsoever, but don't feel like you have to. Because that idea was like 99% you, my friend. Sounds good. But Monkey Man, I want to piggyback off of your thought about what starts like doing a secret thing to start chapters 5 through 7, or like to start at the very least the last chapter. I think there's a little bit of information in the game that's kind of implying that it might want us to play the chapters in a non-traditional order. So I would not be surprised if there was some, like if you wanted to see the final, if you wanted to unlock the final chapter, if you had to replay the chapters in a certain order. I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot or really any evidence for that, but I just think it would be interesting because the game does seem to be paying attention to the order in which you play the chapters. I think there's going to be an ERAM. Yeah, goofball. I think you're right. I think we have not seen the last of ERAM. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. I think ERAM is going to play a much bigger role in the story. But oh shoot. But I just don't think we know very much about what that is yet. So I think that the role that I think it's a possibility, at least, that the role that people think Image Friend plays is actually being played by ERAM. So, but we'll see. Like I said, if we learn nothing else from the release of the last couple chapters, it's that we never know when the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath us. So anything is possible. Okay. ERAM is the Chaos King's mantle from... Shoot. ERAM is the Chaos King's mantle from Chapter 1. It's a possibility. I feel like... I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens with King in general for the rest of the game. And Monkey Man, that's a good thought, but that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. Okay, friends, I do have to cut the stream here. I'm glad to see that things seem to be going well. Now that we've kind of got the tech issues figured out, I'm looking to do more of these kind of lives. I'll definitely keep you all up to date. My at this point, my normal consistent stream time is going to be Sundays at 5. But that said, I really do like doing this kind of stuff. So I'm going to try and do this as often as I can. I might even be back later tonight. So thank you all so much. Great chatting with everybody. Great to meet everybody. Great talking about these Deltarune theories and all that. Shout out to the friends over on Twitch as well. Dwarf, you've always been very helpful on the tech end of things. And definitely want to shout out Kenneth as well, asking great Deltarune questions too. So thank you all for checking in. We'll see you again.